Landmines and jellyfish, welcome back to Knives I Guess, and I Can Remember. I watched as they separated, drifting farther apart, knowing they'd never be in contact with each other again. They were separated by the cruelty of the world, and the harsh mistress of fate. And I was left sitting there wondering how I ended up holding 2 sheets of 1-ply. But today, we are taking a look at the knife from the last live stream, and that's this boy right here. And, of course, we've got a Kydex sheath that, it fought me on the way through, but I got her together. And, this is something I made, give or take, probably about 10 years ago. And, this is 01 tool steel. A buddy of mine gave me a few chunks of it, so I got real excited and went to play with it. And, this is what I got out of it. And what happened was I was, watching instructional videos on knives and, watching guys doing stuff. And one of the things you have is when you're making a knife, when you start hammering a bevel in on this side, it curves up like this, kind of like you're messing with clay. So I wanted to experiment with it, and this shape kind of popped out. And this is a blade profile I really, really like, in spite of the fact that it's not all that practical sometimes. It just looks cool. And I used a chunk of Honduran rosewood burl, and I mean the tiniest scrap of it, to make the scales for the handle. And, this is one of those things where it shows a lot of the lack of experience when I was making it, because I really had no idea what I was doing. I just knew what a knife was supposed to be shaped like, and went for it. And you can kind of see the bevel's a little bit rough, and the edge is a little bit rough, and the plunge line right here actually exists, but it's not great. And this is where it picked up some corrosion from sitting and being stored for about, I don't know, 9 of those years, 8 of those years without any kind of protection. I made the sheath for this a long time after I made this, because a friend of mine taught me how to at least do some stuff with Kydex to make at least a sheath. Not the best one in the world, but it's a sheath. And we took it to the cardboard last night for the live stream. And I thought maybe we'd get better performance than we did out of this guy right here. Because if y'all remember, the edge on it wasn't great, the profile wasn't great. It lasted about an hour before I had to strop it. And this one went for 2 hours before I finally had to strop it. And I will say, when I had to strop it, the edge was gone. It wasn't so gone that I couldn't strop it back to life, but it was pretty far gone. And I spent a little bit of extra time stropping it towards the end of the live stream to see how I could get the edge to come back. And we got this right here. Come on, start the cut. So definitely not the cleanest cut in the world. But I mean, that's after stropping it and 2 hours of punishing it with cardboard. It's not doing as well as the 3CR. It's not doing as well as a lot of the others. But, my heat treatment at the time, I barely knew what I was doing. I barely knew what I was doing. I barely knew how to get a good heat treatment. And I'm pretty sure that's one where I left it just sitting in the forge till the whole thing started glowing, and jammed it in ambient temperature canola oil. Before I learned it was way better to preheat the canola oil. And so I figured the heat treatment may or may not hold up. And the other thing to note is the 01 tool steel. I remember vaguely something about it not being an edge holding king. I think this is more for shock resistance and just straight up raw durability, because it's tool steel. It's not knife steel. It's not blade steel. One of the things that does show up is my lack of patience at the anvil. This is a pretty thick slab of steel. And for it being such a thick slab, it still cuts surprisingly well. But I've got the flat here going into a bevel. It's a little bit of a convex, going into a full convex, going into a smaller convex as you get towards the apex. So that definitely helped it out quite a bit. It pushed through the cardboard pretty nicely. The ergos, again, I got the ergos right. It was comfortable the whole time. I guess I'm okay at getting ergos on knives, far better than I am at getting the grind on them. But, this is one of those I really, really like. I really, really liked it when I made it, and we lost it for the longest time. When I showed off some knives I made, and the last video I did about them a while ago, I couldn't find this one, and I wanted to include it because this is one of my favorite knives that I've made. It's a good little knife, and I really, really like it, even though it's rough as hail. It did a little bit better than I expected. Realistically, it didn't quite live up to what I hoped for. I was hoping to get that 3rd hour out of the cuts before it dulled out, but I mean, honestly, that 2 hours is still good, especially like I don't remember what I did exactly with the heat treatment, but you know, that's an at-home heat treatment as basic as possible and not 100% the correct way for it, and it still held up really well. And I gotta say, I'm really happy with it. This is one that at some point I'd like to make a nicer sheath for easier carry. Because just like the last one, I've got a strip of leather here that you can run your belt through, and it does hold on quite strong. It moves around quite a bit, and I'd love to make something with like an Ulti clip or something a bit more professional for this thing. And I may get around to that one day, but for the time being, the sheath works, and yeah, it does the things it needs to. It wound up getting a bit loose because when I first made it, it was so tight on the blade that I couldn't get it out and back in. So I ended up heating it with a hair dryer and pulling the knife. So it's not the tightest hold in the world, but it does hold well enough. Like it's not coming out anytime soon because you really got to pull on it to get it back out of that sheath. So I thought I'd share this thing with you. I thought I'd show you how this turned out, how the cutting went on it. You know, if I can find something else I made to try this out with, I will. I'm not sure where everything I made went, but I enjoyed cutting with it, you know, and it didn't really see any use. And like right after I made it, I didn't have anything to cut up. I didn't have anything to do with it. I just made it. And it sat there and gathered dust for ages. I carried it a couple times, made a couple of cuts with it. And with whatever edge I put on it back when I made it, it was still shaving sharp when I pulled it out. And it shaved fairly easily. You know, it blasted through paper like I was cutting water. There's a lot of things I did right here. And I think that's part of what I was trying to replicate is like, you know, I got a couple of good ones right out of the gate. And I'm like, yeah, I got this. And I just got lucky a couple of times. Just I happened to land on some things that worked. And, you know, it's very unfinished, but it works. So I don't have a name for this thing or anything like that. But that's what happened with the cut test on this. That's what happened on the live stream. You know, you guys that were there for the live stream, I really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun with that one. We got into talking about music, and we got into talking about, you know, some of the other knives that I made. You know, it was a very enjoyable, chill experience. And I was definitely happy with the guys that showed up. I'm happy with the new faces that popped in for a visit. You know, if you haven't caught a live stream, please show up, check it out, hang out with us. You know, cutting the cardboard, it's fun to see what a knife can do, but more of the fun is had just talking to you guys and enjoying each other's company. So, I think I'll hit my next live stream probably a bit later in the week when I got a day off. Tomorrow I got a lot of extra time, but I want to just relax and not do anything for a while. But yeah, so that's this thing. That's what happened with it. I do have a review for the Soooooo Odium coming up, so definitely stay tuned for that guy. But all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, thank you so much. More of you are popping up. I am so grateful. It is so humbling you guys watch this and get something out of it. Comments, I love a little bit of feedback. Let me know what you think about this thing. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.